For the rest, he thought the dialectical part of the argument of little worth. He saw only too clearly that the result of these ecstatic moments was stupefaction, mental darkness, idiocy. No argument was possible on that point. His conclusion, his estimate of the moment, doubtless contained some error, yet the reality of the sensation troubled him. What's more unanswerable than a fact? And this fact had occurred. The prince had confessed unreservedly to himself that the feeling of intense beatitude in that crowded moment made the moment worth a lifetime. "I feel then," he said one day to Rogojin in Moscow, "I feel then as if I had understood those amazing words, 'There shall be no more time.'" And he added with a smile, "No doubt the epileptic Mahomet refers to that same moment when he says that he visited all the dwellings of Allah in less time than was needed to empty his pitcher of water." Yes, he had often met Rogojin in Moscow, and many were the subjects they discussed. "He told me I had been a brother to him," thought the prince. "He said so today for the first time." He was sitting in the summer garden on a seat under a tree, and his mind dwelt on the matter. It was about 7 o'clock, and the place was empty. The stifling atmosphere foretold a storm, and the prince felt a certain charm in the contemplative mood which possessed him. He found pleasure, too, in gazing at the exterior objects around him. All the time he was trying to forget something, to escape from some idea that haunted him. But melancholy thoughts came back, though he would so willingly have escaped from them. He remembered suddenly how he had been talking to the waiter while he dined about a recently committed murder which the whole town was discussing, and as he thought of it something strange came over him. He was seized all at once by a violent desire, almost a temptation, against which he strove in vain. He jumped up and walked off as fast as he could towards the Petersburg side. He had asked someone a little while before to show him which was the Petersburg side on the banks of the Neva. He had not gone there, however, and he knew very well that it was of no use to go now, for he would certainly not find Lebedeff's relation at home. He had the address, but she must certainly have gone to Pavlofsk, or Colia would have let him know. If he were to go now, it would merely be out of curiosity. But a sudden new idea had come into his head. However, it was something to move on and know where he was going. A minute later he was still moving on, but without knowing anything. He could no longer think out his new idea. He tried to take an interest in all he saw, in the sky, in the Neva. He spoke to some children he met. He felt his epileptic condition becoming more and more developed. The evening was very close. Thunder was heard some way off. The prince was haunted all that day by the face of Lebedeff's nephew, whom he had seen for the first time that morning, just as one is haunted at times by some persistent musical refrain. By a curious association of ideas, the young man always appeared as the murderer of whom Lebedeff had spoken when introducing him to Muishkin. Yes, he had read something about the murder, and that quite recently. Since he came to Russia he had heard many stories of this kind, and was interested in them. His conversation with the waiter an hour ago chanced to be on the subject of this murder of the Zemarins, and the latter had agreed with him about it. He thought of the waiter again, and decided that he was no fool, but a steady, intelligent man. Though, said he to himself, God knows what he may really be. In a country with which one is unfamiliar, it is difficult to understand the people one meets. He was beginning to have a passionate faith in the Russian soul, however, and what discoveries he had made in the last 6 months, what unexpected discoveries. But every soul is a mystery, and depths of mystery lie in the soul of a Russian. He had been intimate with Rogojin, for example, and a brotherly friendship had sprung up between them. Yet did he really know him? What chaos and ugliness fills the world at times! What a self-satisfied rascal is that nephew of Lebedeff's! But what am I thinking? Continued the prince to himself. Can he really have committed that crime? Did he kill those 6 persons? I seem to be confusing things. How strange it all is. My head goes round. And Lebedeff's daughter, how sympathetic and charming her face was as she held the child in her arms. What an innocent look and childlike laugh she had. It is curious that I had forgotten her until now. I expect Lebedeff adores her, and I really believe, when I think of it, that as sure as 2 and 2 make 4, he is fond of that nephew too. Well, why should he judge them so hastily? Could he really say what they were after one short visit? Even Lebedeff seemed an enigma today. Did he expect to find him so? He had never seen him like that before, Lebedeff and the Comtesse du Barry. Good heavens! If Rogojin should really kill someone, it would not at any rate be such a senseless, chaotic affair. A knife made to a special pattern, and 6 people killed in a kind of delirium. But Rogojin also had a knife made to a special pattern. Can it be that Rogojin wishes to murder anyone? The prince began to tremble violently. It is a crime on my part to imagine anything so base, with such cynical frankness. His face reddened with shame at the thought, and then there came across him, as in a flash, the memory of the incidents at the Pavlovsk station, and at the other station in the morning, and the question asked him by Rogojin about the eyes. And Rogojin's cross, that he was even now wearing, and the benediction of Rogojin's mother, and his embrace on the darkened staircase, that last supreme renunciation. And now to find himself full of this new idea, staring into shop windows and looking round for things. How base he was! Despair overmastered his soul. He would not go on. He would go back to his hotel. He even turned and went the other way. But a moment after, he changed his mind again, and went on in the old direction. Why, here he was on the Petersburg side already, quite close to the house. Where was his idea? He was marching along without it now. Yes, his malady was coming back, it was clear enough. All this gloom and heaviness, all these ideas, were nothing more nor less than a fit coming on. Perhaps he would have a fit this very day. But just now all the gloom and darkness had fled. His heart felt full of joy and hope. There was no such thing as doubt. And yes, he hadn't seen her for so long. He really must see her. He wished he could meet Rogojin. He would take his hand, and they would go to her together. His heart was pure. He was